Hey, it's Mike with the Atlanta Voiceover Studio. Thanks for joining me today. This video is a little different from others. We're taking it from our podcast that we have each month, and it's where Heidi sat down with Rachel Barron of Effective Students, who is also an ADHD expert. And we had a question in our VO mentorship membership, which I'll talk to you about that after the video. Somebody came up and they're like, I've got ADHD. And some other people chimed in the Discord chat, I've got it too. How do we deal with the voiceover industry when we have this? We have so many challenges. So Heidi decided to sit down with an expert in Rachel, and they cover a bunch of stuff, including the 3 types of ADHD, which we'll show you in this video, how to know if you have ADHD, what is executive functioning, and how does that relate to ADHD? And then finally, if you do have ADHD, what are the challenges as a voiceover talent that you can deal with? And in the full podcast, they go over how you can actually minimize those. Check it out, and I'll come back at the end.
What exactly is ADHD? Can you explain that for us?
There are actually 3 different types of ADHD. One is inattentive type, right? Predominantly hyperactive type, or combined type. And so here's some more details, not that everybody wants to look at all these details, but what are the characteristics that help us understand what this looks like in ourselves or how we might observe this in someone else, right? It's marked by a pattern of behavior or inattention. So take a look at some of these definitions and think, is my mind wandering? Am I daydreaming? Or how do I bring it back? Or do I always feel like my motor's running and I have a lot of energy a lot of the time and then I crash? Or am I impulsive and might interrupt when someone else is talking, right? So that's kind of some general characteristics
Mm. Do
of,
you mind if I read each one really quick, just for those that are, if they're just
yeah,
listening, so that they can understand? So, the inattentive ADHD, it's difficulty staying on task, sustaining focus, staying organized. And then the hyperactivity aspect of it means that they're going to move more constantly. And even like when there's situations where it's not appropriate, there's excessive fidgets, taps, or talks. And if you're an
yes.
adult, it may mean like just this extreme restlessness or talking too much, which can really hinder if you're, trying to do voiceover as like a freelancer. And then the third aspect of it is impulsivity, which means they may
Correct.
act without thinking or have difficulty with self control. They want those immediate rewards, or it's the inability to delay gratification. They may interrupt others or make important decisions without considering the long term consequences. How can someone know for sure if they have ADHD? And I probably should ask you before this question even is like, do you say, how do you know if you have ADHD or if you are ADHD? Is there a specific way to phrase that?
That's such an important question that you ask. I've subscribed to something called people first language, right? So we are not our diagnosis. We are people who might also have a diagnosis, right? So we are a person, so you would be diagnosed with ADHD. So that's
Okay.
how I think is a good neutral way to say that. And then the question really is, how does that actually happen? So diagnosing ADHD can usually taken care of by your physician, a psychiatrist, or a psychologist. It's frequently diagnosed when younger, but not always. And a full psychological evaluation is a tried and true way to understand really how does your brain function, where are your learning strengths, what are your learning strengths, and then where else might you have a weakness. It's usually also done by gathering information from a number of sources. In adults, this would be from the individual, and the individual may have gotten feedback by coworkers or other family members, so that does also play a role. I would say there's something called a rating scale, so you might complete a number of questions on a scale of 1 to 5. Do you present with this often, frequently, rarely? Right. And then those are totaled. And if you fall within a certain continuum, that's done. And then there's also some neuropsychiatric feedback. But a true diagnosis will come from a physician. And I think that's important. I want to go back to something we covered earlier, if that's okay,
Yeah.
is some people think, well, ADHD is a diagnosis, but what is executive functioning and what is the relationship between ADHD and executive functioning?
Sorry, Rachel, what is executive functioning? How is that defined?
Or even why is it relevant? I
Yeah.
absolutely love that question. I would go back and say Executive function is not a definite a diagnosis that you might have in by a doctor or physician, but it's identified as a struggle for many people with ADHD. And so it's often a symptom that is seen in people who also have ADHD. So what is it? It's actually a set of mental processes that have to do with managing yourself and your resources to reach a goal. It's an umbrella term for neurologically based skills involving mental control and self-regulation. So years ago, I wrote an article about what comes first, ADHD or executive dysfunction, right? Kind of like the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
And definitely the ADHD is the true diagnosis, but it's often marked by struggles with executive function skills.
You know, we're talking specifically about voiceover in the industry. And so, what maybe are some of the challenges that people who are diagnosed with ADHD can have in regards to learning new skills? So, voiceover is a new skill, and that there's a lot to learn, not only performance and technique wise, but also business wise. So, what are some of those things that, if you're dealing with ADHD, can cause barriers?
So the first that comes to mind, Heidi, is attention to detail, right? So anytime you run a business, there's the creative thinking part of your brain. We call that up at 30,000 feet, right? And people with ADHD are fantastic creative thinkers. They have lots of fabulous ideas. They're very good at that. Many people with ADHD are very bright also. So let's not confuse that with not being smart.
Right.
But some of the things that plague them might be attending to those details, making good plans, following through with those plans. Frustration tolerance is something, people with ADHD might be really good at some things. So when they encounter something that they're not good at, that might be difficult for them. There's something called rejection dysphoria, which I'll explain a little bit later, but accepting feedback when it's not a setback. Right? So sometimes that can be difficult. Remembering to integrate what they've learned and putting through with deliberate practice to refine that, because that's a process of refinement is improvement, right? And I think those things really can hinder people with ADHD when they're learning a new business or learning a new skill or building their own business like voiceover. So.
That was just a snippet of the full podcast where Heidi sat down with Rachel Barron of Effective Students and an ADHD expert. They went through the whole realm of ADHD because somebody in our VO mentorship membership brought up, hey, I've got ADHD. How do I deal with this in a full voiceover context and getting better as I try and build out my business? So I hope you'll check out the full podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcasts, and I'll end up putting up the whole video version of this podcast in a little while. Outside of that, if you would like to join us for our VO Mentorship membership, it's where Heidi and I are basically your virtual coaches each month. We have a Zoom set up with industry pros that come in. You get a full resource library of all the past Zooms that we've done with industry pros, Discord chat, and a whole lot more. So if you want to check it out, I'll link it in the notes. It's only $25 a month, but you have Heidi and I there as resources. Thanks for watching, and cheers to your voiceover success.
Have you spent a bunch of time going through voiceover training only to now feel lost and not sure what your next steps are?
Or maybe you had a little success and started booking some voiceover jobs feeling good, but then it died down a little, and now you're unsure about how to create that long and sustainable career.
Or wish you had a support group to inspire you, hold you accountable, and answer those ever-elusive industry questions that come up all the time.
Well, we've been in your shoes, having to try to figure it all out in pieces here and there. So that's why we want to introduce you to the Atlanta Voiceover Studio and ProVoiceOverTraining.com VO Mentorship Membership.
I know, like you need another membership, right? Yeah, we totally get it. But listen, the right one can make all the difference in a business.
Yeah, the reason we wanted to do this was because so many people go through training, get demos, maybe learn about voiceover from video courses like our own, ProVoiceOverTraining.com, or other places to train.
But when it came to actually putting it into practice and building a business, it felt overwhelming, confusing, and for some, maybe you, paralyzing.
Yeah, we could have created a workshop or class for this and it would have been worth it, but we wanted a solution that was for talent, that was just more affordable, convenient, and valuable.
We also wanted to be right there with you, helping you along the way as much as we could.
So before we jump into what the monthly mentorship membership covers, Let's talk about the extras first.
Members will get first access to sign up for Industry Pro workouts. These are virtual small group opportunities to read for agents, casting directors, or creative directors, receive their feedback, and get to know them better. And we only have 15 spots for each, so they fill up quickly.
And you get $20 off Industry Pro workouts as members. The Mentorship membership is only $25 a month, so if you love doing the Industry Pro workouts anyway, the membership basically pays for itself.
And on top of the Industry Pro workouts, we'll also occasionally give members discounts to training and other offerings.
And those are just the bonuses. Each month you'll get
professional training modules. These are live Zooms we'll host monthly along with industry expert guests, and topics range from industry insights, business strategies, performance, and more.
a resource library, a collection of past Zoom sessions, scripts, audition prep guides, tech setup guides, and reference materials for different genres.
Toolkits. These are downloadable resources like vocal warm-ups, exercises, and script breakdowns to build a solid foundation in voiceover.
Plus, and this is a biggie, you'll have access to our private community message board where you can ask questions and get support. Now, we built out this membership to grow with you no matter where you are in your voiceover journey.
So we hope you'll join us. Take the next step toward a rewarding voiceover career with mentorship that grows with you. Join today for only $25 a month.